Wonderful. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm Michael Berkman, Professor of Political Science and Director of the McCourtney Institute for Democracy. And it's a pleasure to see so many of you here for one of the highlights of our year, the Brown Democracy Medal ceremony and lecture. Over the past decade, we've honored courageous individuals who have risked their freedom to defend human rights, led successful campaigns to restore voting rights to disenfranchised communities, and organized grassroots movements that help bring down oppressive regimes. We've honored organizations committed to the mechanics of democracy itself, ensuring sound public budgeting, fair elections, and representative districts. Their names might not be widely known, but their work keeps democracy functioning. And today, we honor an organization closer to home. Before we begin tonight's program, I want to thank a few people who make the Institute's work possible. Ted and Tracy McCourtney, whose vision and generosity established the McCourtney Institute for Democracy. Thank you for your enduring support. And Dean Clarence Lang, whose steady leadership and encouragement continues to help the Institute thrive. Thank you, Clarence. Now it's my privilege to introduce the person who, along with his wife, Lynn, made this award possible, Larry Brown. Larry? You have your own microphone.
Yep, I have. Thanks, Michael.
Yep.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the awarding of the 12th Brown Democracy Medal. I, along with Michael, would like to acknowledge the McCourtneys whose inspiration and generosity created the Institute for Democracy, and Dean Lang for his continuous encouragement, leadership, and support. In the past 12 years, we have recognized inspirational and heroic people who have championed the cause of democracy, including Nasrin Sotoudeh, the Iranian civil rights lawyer still facing prison, though she is at present on a temporary medical furlough, Desmond Meade, who led the successful campaign in Florida to restore voting rights to people with prior felony convictions, and Sergej Popovic, the Serbian political activist whose actions led to the downfall of that country's corrupt leader, Slobodan Milosevic. We have honored groups and organizations that have flown under the radar on such issues as public budgeting, election integrity, and gerrymandering. When I was discussing this year's award with the staff of the McCourtney Institute for Democracy, and this gives me an opportunity to recognize them and express my admiration and appreciation to them for their efforts. Michael Berkman, Director of the McCourtney Institute for Democracy, Chris Beam, the Managing Director. I saw John Gastel here, who is the first director of the McCourtney Institute for Democracy, who has my everlasting appreciation and my everlasting gratitude. And Jenna Spinelli. Jenna, I don't know what your title is, but you should be the Queen of Communications, because there is nothing you don't do that is not at an exceptional level. When we talked about recognizing an organization in an area that has always been compelling, but never more so than at present: civics and civic education. When I reviewed the presentation and backgrounds for several groups and organizations focusing on civics and civic education, one group stood out over all the others, and it is a group I've known and been involved with: the Rendell Center for Civics and Civic Engagement. I have no hesitation in telling you that of all the award winners we've had, this one is my favorite. The brainchild of the Rendells, but really the inspiration of former First Lady of Pennsylvania and judge on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, Marjorie Rendell, staffed by its director and only paid full-time employee, Beth Specker. The center was formed in 2014 with its mission to promote civic education and engagement. I have always had a close relationship with the Rendell family since I worked as a young assistant district attorney under an older, but still young former assistant district attorney who became Philadelphia DA in his first of several elective posts in politics. I was already in the DA's office when he was elected, but Ed Rendell hired me threatened on too many occasions to fire me, promoted me, and insulted me for the 5 years of my 7 years in the DA's office that I worked for him. Best job I ever had. Following their 8 years in Harrisburg, the Rendells set out to help restore the civic mission of schools by supporting teachers and administrators to advance the subjects of U.S. history, government, and civics. Some of their programs, Citizenship Challenge, read-alouds, and the literature-based mock trials that culminate with a presentation at the Constitution Center in Philadelphia, are truly innovative and inspiring. Before I ask Judge Rendell and Beth to join me up here, we have a short greeting from Governor Rendell.
On behalf of the center, thanks for recognizing us with this award. This is a wonderful award to get, and these awards are helpful. A lot of people give a lot of time, and I want to say on behalf of the people who work for the center, it's great when we see the good we do, and the thanks for this award. People said, well, you can't teach constitutional law to fifth graders. They just won't absorb it. And we have this contest. We started in Philadelphia and the 7 suburban counties, and we expanded it to every county in the state. And private and parochial schools can participate. And then we picked a 10 bed from all over the state. We answer live in front of a panel. And it's wonderful, the caliber of the responses we get. It's great.
And so it gives Lynn and I great pleasure, even more than usual, to present this year's Brown Democracy Medal to the Rendell Center for Civics and Civic Engagement. Judge Rendell, Beth.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Hey, this is fabulous. This,
Wait. Jenna, is Judge taking this?
She's got the photos.
I have my own.
Got her own.
Yeah.
It's a full class, first class operation here.
So we're doing photo?
Oh,
Yeah,
photo,
let's just do
photo,
one quick photo and then we can
Photo
get on
of
to
the
stay there.
photo.
Photo. Get,
Perfect, don't drop it. Wow.
thank you, Larry.
On behalf of the Rendell Center for Civics and Civic Engagement, I am deeply honored to accept the Brown Democracy Medal from the McCourtney Institute for Democracy at Penn State. This recognition means so much to us because it celebrates not just an institution, but a mission rooted in the belief that democracy flourishes when citizens, especially our youngest citizens, understand both their rights and their responsibilities. We want to begin by expressing our deepest gratitude to the Brown family, whose generosity and vision endowed this award. Their commitment ensures that democracy defenders, innovators, and teachers are recognized and supported. It's very special to receive an honor made possible by their largesse. And if I might take a moment for some personal reflection, Ed and I have known Lynn and Larry for over 45 years. Ed and Larry worked in the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office, as you saw, and on weekends, Larry would bring their son Adam into the office, and our son Jesse, then barely 2 years old, now 45, would play while Larry and Ed worked. And I think we're responsible for encouraging Larry and Lynn to buy their first vacation home in Ocean City, New Jersey. Now, I know you're picturing a lovely oceanfront residence, but this was probably 1980, and the prosperity we now enjoy was not even in our wildest dreams. It was really a not-so-new row home, 50 feet from a busy intersection. But it was at the Jersey Shore. We were young then. Now, not so much. But how lucky we were to have had such good friends over the years. And fast forward, Larry is a valued member of our Rendell Center board, so involved in all we do and eager to do more. Ed and I had no idea that Larry and Lynn had endowed this award, but it's not surprising. But it's also not surprising that we had no idea. They don't go around wearing all the wonderful things they do on their sleeves. That's their way. So this award is special indeed to us personally as well as professionally. We're inspired to join the company of past recipients of the Brown Democracy Medal, scholars, activists, organizations whose work has advanced democratic principles around the world. From those who have fought for voting rights, to those who have built tools for civic participation, to those who have strengthened institutions and fostered dialogue. Each winner reminds us of the many ways democracy must be defended and renewed. To be counted among them is an extraordinary privilege. We salute them and applaud the McCourtney Institute for Democracy. Its goal, and I quote, to promote scholarship and practical innovations in order to preserve and advance democracy is timeless and is especially needed in these challenging times when knowledge about our democracy is at an all-time low. And I should note that the title of my presentation, A Republic If You Can Teach It, is taken as the mantra from the Civics Renewal Network, a network of 37 nonprofit institutions put together by the Annenberg Public Policy Center, who is our partner. And it harkens back to Benjamin Franklin saying, when he left the Constitutional Convention in response to a woman asking, what form of government have you given us? He said, a republic if you can keep it. So our mantra is republic if you can teach it. The Rendell was founded on the idea that civic education must be active, engaged, and meaningful. Through our read-aloud programs, classroom mock trials, moot court experiences, Citizenship Challenge, and professional development for teachers, we strive to bring democracy to life. And let me be clear, when I say we, I mean Ed and me, but mainly our executive director, Beth Specker, who together with our countless volunteers really gets all of these things done. So everything you see is because Beth does what she does. We want students not only to learn about our democracy, but to practice it, asking questions, debating ideas, listening with respect, and working together to solve problems. We know that democracy is not self-sustaining. The late Justice Sandra Day O'Connor said that information about the Constitution is not passed down in the gene pool. It must be taught anew to each generation. Each generation must be taught to value it, to question it, and to strengthen it. That is why we focus on students from their earliest school years through high school, because they are the next generation of leaders, voters, and engaged citizens. We are especially focused on elementary students, teaching them about their roles as citizens when they're learning where they fit in their families and in their communities. They're excited and eager to learn and not distracted by the social challenges that accompany adolescence. Why is civics education necessary? From the earliest days of the American experiment, the Founding Fathers recognized the vital role of education in preserving self-government. Thomas Jefferson wrote that a nation cannot be both ignorant and free. He said, and I quote, "I know of no safe depository of the ultimate powers of society but the people themselves. And if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with a wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it from them, but to inform their discretion by education. This is the true corrective of abuses of constitutional power," end quote. Public schooling in the 18th and 19th centuries was created in part to ensure that citizens would be equipped to participate meaningfully in a democracy. Through much of the 20th century, civics was considered a core subject, alongside reading, writing, and arithmetic. Students learned about the Constitution, discussed current events, and even practiced civic participation through student government and mock trials. But over the past several decades, the place of civics in American education has eroded. As standardized testing focused heavily on math and literacy, and as funding and instructional time grew increasingly limited, civics education was pushed to the margins. And today, only a handful of states require a full year of high school civics, and many students graduate with little understanding of how government works or why their voice matters. In a time of deep political polarization, declining trust in democratic institutions, and widespread civic apathy, We need robust, high-quality civics education in the United States. It's never been more urgent. Civics education, teaching students how government works, what are their rights and responsibilities, and how they can engage in the democratic process, is not a luxury. It is necessary for the health of our republic. Total federal expenditures on civics and history is approximately 5 cents per student, while spending for STEM, science, technology, math, and engineering, is $54 per student. The consequences are clear. The 2022 National Assessment of Educational Progress reported that only 22% of 8th graders performed at or above the proficient level in civics, the lowest score since the assessment began keeping these subject matters in 1998. In a 2023 survey by the Annenberg Public Policy Center, only 47% of American adults could name all 3 branches of government, while nearly 1 in 4 couldn't name a single one. These statistics are not just troubling, they are a warning. When civic knowledge declines, so too does civic participation. Young Americans consistently vote at lower rates than older adults, with only 47% of eligible young voters aged 19 to 29 casting a ballot in the 2024 presidential election. Many young people report feeling alienated from the political process, unsure how to make their voices heard. Without understanding their role in a democracy, students are more susceptible to disinformation, distrust, and disengagement. Yet the picture is not all bleak. When students are given high-quality civic learning experiences, the impact is profound. Research from the Center for Information and Research on Civic Learning and Engagement at Tufts University shows that students who receive robust civic education are more likely to vote, volunteer, and discuss political issues with family and friends. They become more confident, better at understanding different viewpoints, and more committed to community problem solving. Effective civic education involves more than memorizing facts about government. It includes active learning, discussion of current events and controversial issues, simulations of mock trials, and service learning projects that connect students with their communities. When students see themselves as part of the democratic process, they do begin to understand that their voice matters. I started working to promote civics education when my husband, Ed Rendell, became governor of Pennsylvania in 2003. Justice David Souter spoke at a judicial conference that I attended and related a story about a Russian lawyer who came to the Supreme Court and wanted a tour. Justice Souter volunteered to take him through the building and was surprised to learn about the lawyer's knowledge of the Supreme Court opinions. He inquired how he learned so much, and the Russian lawyer said, well, during the Cold War, when one of his lawyer friends would get one of these opinions, they would meet clandestinely and discuss them. The lawyer then asked Justice Souter what he thought was the most impactful Supreme Court opinion of the modern era. And Justice Souter immediately replied, as many of us might, Brown versus Board of Education. But he could see that the lawyer was disappointed. So Justice Souter said, well, what do you think is the most important Supreme Court opinion? And the lawyer responded, the Nixon tapes decision, because in my country, the idea that the head of the government could be told what to do by the courts is unheard of. And Justice Souter said at that moment, he had an epiphany. We don't teach our children civics. We don't teach them how amazing our government is. I actually experienced my own epiphany that led to my interest in imparting civic knowledge to our citizens. It was during a naturalization ceremony that I performed on July 3rd on the lawn overlooking Independence Hall, looking at the new citizens, 72 of them from 19 countries. I realized they appreciate our democracy, our form of government. They have studied and learned about it. They left their native countries to come to America because of the liberty, the freedom, the opportunity that our democracy affords them. This doesn't happen anywhere else. Natural-born citizens take this for granted and are largely ignorant, as Justice Souter noted, of how special our government is. So I've been on this grand journey of civic education since 2003, when Ed was elected governor. Civics education was my initiative as First Lady. Then in 2014, we formed the Rendell Center as its own nonprofit, with Beth as our fearless leader, and with many volunteers and board members like Larry. We've worked on programs that engage, inspire, and educate students. We look to ensure that the next generation has the knowledge, skills, and dispositions of effective citizens. We've reached tens of thousands of students across Pennsylvania and beyond through our read-alouds, through our literature and history-based mock trials, and our Citizenship Challenge essay contest. This past year, 23,000 students participated in read-alouds, led by community leaders, lawyers, judges, veterans, and volunteer firefighters. 200 classrooms engaged in mock trials based on literacy characters and historical figures. Students who participate in these programs learn not only about the Constitution and the courts, they also develop public speaking skills, confidence, and a sense of civic identity. Over 35,000 students have participated in our Citizenship Challenge since 2015. Our Read Aloud program is a monthly virtual program where lawyers, judges, veterans, firefighters, and civic leaders read civics-themed books to elementary school students. Each session includes a guided discussion to explore key constitutional and civic concepts. We celebrate civic holidays such as Constitution Day, Bill of Rights Day, Veterans Day, Law Day, Black History Month, Women's History Month, and President's Day. Let's take a look.
So the story is called Sprinkles the Fire Dog. Sprinkles was a little puppy who lived in a big city.
Like that story, Sprinkles? Yeah.
The Read Aloud program is a program where the Rendell Center sets aside books that are targeted for certain age groups, first, second, third, I think fourth grade sometimes, maybe fifth.
Somebody tells you you can't do something, you prove them wrong.
You can always achieve anything that you want.
And the themes in the book have to do with fairness and cooperation, collaboration, listening to the other side, being mindful of majority concerns.
Training do you have to do to be a fireman?
I get to hear first and second graders ask questions right off the top of their head. And the questions are remarkable. And the answers are human motivations that have been written about for thousands of years. And yet, the second graders get it. And these are teaching opportunities for us to talk to first and second graders. As a federal judge, I love it. I don't usually get that kind of spontaneity in my courtroom.
Of the program, a fourth grade teacher said, and I quote, "While I think there are many resources out there to coordinate some STEM-based learning opportunities, there are far less focused on social studies, civics, and the government side of student learning. I appreciate how the Rendell Center has made that a priority, and I look forward to booking future programs with my students. Personally, the extra touch that goes along with the Veterans Day Read Aloud, knowing that this individual reading has served our country in some way, is especially meaningful." And a second grade teacher noted, "It was such a wonderful experience. My students loved getting to meet with a real lawyer and listening to him read a story. Our lawyer was amazing. He had great expression while reading and included vocabulary practice. Wow, in parentheses. He kept the class engaged during the lesson. He was responsive to their questions and took time to really explain the importance of rules and laws. I posted pictures on our class messaging app, and parents were so excited about this opportunity." The adult readers who Zoom into the classroom or come into the classroom in person truly enjoy the experience of awakening these student minds. We've had over 150 readers involved in our program this last year. Our literature and history-based mock trial program provides a dynamic, interactive opportunity for students to develop higher learning thinking skills and to learn about America's judicial system and constitutional principles by writing and arguing a mock court trial based on a familiar piece of literature or a historical event. The program seamlessly integrates within the school's instructional framework and allows students to gain the knowledge and skills necessary to become engaged citizens. Its focus on literacy and history complements what the teachers are already teaching. We've learned that this aspect of the program makes teachers eager to use it. They see it as enhancing what they're already teaching, not a dreaded add-on to the curriculum. Focused on increasing K through 8 student achievement in civics, government, and U.S. history, the mock trial formula has demonstrated it strengthens the literacy skills of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Indeed, the results for the past 3 years indicate that our literature-based mock trial program is beneficial, with pre- and post-test results showing a 33% improvement in civic knowledge scores. Using the mock trial framework, students are challenged to think through a storyline and characters in a deeper and more practical, real-life way, helping them to learn from the issues in the story and apply the lesson to their own lives. The experience takes students into the gray areas of democratic deliberation, creating an arena in which each student can form and support his or her own opinion about an unclear dilemma that often occurs in a democratic society. A comprehensive handbook and PowerPoint guide helps the educator from the first step of identifying the piece of classic or classroom literature on which to base the trial to the final step of jury deliberation. An appendix provides activities and sample literature-based mock trials to support the work. The sample mock trials might find Goldilocks being tried for criminal trespass, or Steve Harmon from Monster on trial for second-degree murder. The Rendell Center's literature-based mock trial program begins with identification of a piece of literature. Every literary work contains a conflict which forms the basis for the trial. Once the students have read the work, our staff visits the classroom in person or via Zoom to introduce the concept and help students to build common vocabulary and strengthen their understanding. The Rendell Center staff guides students through the process of developing a fact pattern, which is a narrative that contains the information on the trial, identifying the witnesses, writing witness statements, composing opening statements, developing direct and cross-examination, and creating closing statements. Ideally, the process of compiling the trial takes 4 to 5 classroom visits and culminates in a trial that is heard before a guest judge or a lawyer in the classroom. Very often, the classes may choose to present their case at a local courthouse before a judge. And I probably oversaw 10 such trials in my last year alone, and over a dozen of my judicial colleagues, like Judge Kearney, whom you saw, volunteered to judge them as well. In our history-based mock trials, the students explore a historical event and use primary source documents to build the case. We have trials about the yellow fever epidemic, the Hamilton-Burr duel, and we recently received a grant to create history-based mock trials to commemorate our nation's 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Volunteer attorneys support our efforts in each part of the process, adding a career development component to the program. The best way to understand our mock trial is to see it in action and hear from the students about the program.
The Rendell Mock Trial Program is revolutionary. It is extraordinary in its ability to reach students in a language they understand in an experiential way. You have to see this to appreciate what this is about.
It's been a project of passion, I would say, for my daughter, where she has been very eager to come home from school and actually start working on this project with her classmates.
It was fun, and I didn't want to let my team down.
Learning by doing is an excellent way to see what it's like in the courtroom.
To see it all put together, in this setting, was so amazing. And they were so passionate about this.
These kids are teaching themselves in a lot of ways, struggling with how to make things work, how to construct arguments, and it's bringing in so many different skills. Their minds are like sponges and they're ready to soak up information. We talked in one of our classroom visits about cross-examination, and I gave them a demo, and they said, Mr. Tom, you were really cooking on that cross-examination, and we're going to incorporate that into our cross. That's fantastic. So they're really listening and trying to process what you're talking about in their own language too.
Everybody just gave us really helpful tips, taught us how to make our points better. I felt really powerful being able to bring everything together and wrap it up nicely.
When they walk in and they can see the inscription on the ceiling, justice is the guardian of liberty. gives them a sense of what do these words mean in my own life. It gives them the energy to keep going and pushing through every day to do something greater. I would absolutely recommend other lawyers, judges, anybody who's involved in the legal system and the rule of law to get involved with the Rendell Center.
It doesn't have to take up a lot of your time, but it is very rewarding to help educate the next generation of citizens.
Thank you, Rendell Center. This was a great experience.
Today, Beth and I and another friend, Sally Flaherty, who used to be the social studies curriculum developer for the Department of Education, we're working with 2 of your teachers' classes here at Penn State, trying out our newest mock trial, which puts Betsy Ross on trial for treason. So they experienced it and they helped us with it, but this is one of the ones we're going to be preparing for the 250th. And the result was mixed. I think in the second time she got off scot-free. In the first one it was divided, but it was a real learning experience. And the students were amazing. They were so engaged. These are teachers. These are youngsters who are going to be student teaching like next week or the week after. And it was wonderful. They loved it and we loved it. So one teacher whose class participated in one of our mock trial programs said, "My students were inspired. They came away not just understanding the Constitution, they believed they could one day help shape it." And a student added, "I didn't think I could speak in front of a group, but now I want to be a lawyer or even a judge." These are not isolated outcomes. They reflect the transformative potential of civic learning. But my favorite experiential learning activity that we have is the Citizenship Challenge. And you saw the governor was referring to that earlier. It illustrates that point. It involves a provocative question about an aspect of our democracy, often the Constitution, and a 4th or 5th grade class works together to pick a side and defend it using research and their own ideas to argue and persuade. This year, we're asking students to address, again, we're going to come with treason, whether the colonists were committing treason by urging separation from Great Britain. And they'll do research on what the colonists were doing. They'll probably look into Thomas Paine's Common Sense. They'll look into the justifications for what they were doing, the grievances. It's really amazing. It's a combination of research and their own common sense. The top 10 classes, the top 10 essays are invited to the National Constitution Center to perform a skit. We usually receive over 200 essays from all over the Commonwealth. This past year, students from Pittsburgh and Johnstown traveled over 4 hours, leaving at 4 a.m. to come and perform their skit, and the Pittsburgh class from North Allegheny won first prize. So that's pretty cool. The teachers and parents especially love coming to the National Constitution Center and viewing the presentations by the students. After each class performs a 5-minute skit, the judges ask questions about their essay or performance. Let's see it in action and hear from the students. Citizenship Challenge, the one that really gets me excited because it gets the kids excited too. That educates children about the Constitution.
I love this challenge because it gets young kids in the 5th and 6th grade, involved in talking about and thinking about their government and the laws that control it.
This challenge has definitely inspired me to be a leader. It's a really fun experience. Definitely try it out if you get the chance. From this experience, I will make sure that little ones like me can be heard.
I'm excited today because I get to put on a show.
I think it's a very good opportunity for kids to learn and also have fun. It's a thing that doesn't happen a lot, so you gotta take advantage of it while you're doing it and make the best of it.
It just inspires me to see everyone just being together, smiling together, being a community. And we represent everybody, which feels really good. And I know that everybody back at our school is going to be really happy too. And it just feels really good.
Citizenship Challenge is an opportunity for the kids to research and learn a little bit about where their country came from and where it's headed, and give them the opportunity to have an opinion and make some decisions. Kids learn a lot about their history. They learn about the founding fathers. They learn about decisions that were made in the Constitution. It gives them a foundation. I think they have learned to be a good citizen, and the opportunities that are ahead of them when they are able to vote, when they reach that age, and I think it's important for them.
My favorite part is seeing the kids come together for a live performance and rallying around the writers and just getting the acting, the singing, the dancing, the art props. Everybody has a job, and really just getting them excited to come down here and compete.
I am inspired and I'm proud to be here.
I would definitely recommend the Citizenship Challenge.
I'm super excited to be a part of the Citizenship Challenge. Come to the next Citizenship Challenge.
The first year we did it, the question was, should the Constitution be changed so that the president doesn't need to be a natural-born citizen? And so the kids would take one side or the other, about equally divided, and they researched, well, why did the Constitution provide had to be naturally born? So they did a lot of learning, and one of the groups, one of the classes who was up there, had as their end song, Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen. They were obviously in favor of keeping it the way it is. And then one year, the topic was the First Amendment, which is the most important of the First Amendment, the 5 rights protected by the First Amendment. And for their skit, they had a boxing ring, and they had all the rights with boxing gloves on, and freedom of speech knocked out all the other freedoms, freedom of the press, assembly, grievance, everything. And he said, well, without me, without freedom of speech, you're nothing. So I'm knocking out everybody. It was really, really well done. They take it to heart, they research, and they get excited about the Constitution. If we could only inspire all young students like the ones participating in the challenge. A few years ago, a 9th grader wrote us telling us how impactful this experience was when he was in 5th grade. He hadn't known what the First Amendment was, and he'd never been asked a question, let alone had to defend a position on an issue. So he wrote, and I quote, "The program helped expose me to a non-sports competition with a totally separate set of skills. We had to answer questions on the spot, which really helped me develop my critical thinking and problem-solving abilities." One year, a second-place team sent us a video showing them returning to the school with their big check, and the entire school was lined up as they got off the bus, clapping wildly. It was as if they had won the World Series. It was amazing. So, in conclusion, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires participation, courage, and commitment. This award renews our dedication to ensuring that every child in America learns that lesson firsthand. Again, our thanks to Lynn and Larry Brown for your vision, to the McCourtney Institute and the McCourtneys for your commitment to democracy, and to all of you for recognizing the power of civic education. We accept this award not only as a recognition of our past work, but as a call to redouble our efforts to secure the future of democracy for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. I'm going to open it up for questions. All right, great. Thank you very much, Judge Rendell, for those powerful words and for the work you and Beth and the rest of your team are doing. It feels very important right now. And I can tell you that it wasn't only these students that were all excited. I was outside the room where you were meeting with the ed students at lunch today, and they came out just abuzz talking about how interesting and what a great time they had. So we have some time for questions. So if please raise your hand and we'll come around with a microphone. I guess Jenna, come around with the microphone. I have one too.
So how do we plow through the mess that is now a government that does not respect education and does not respect children? How do teachers manage to overcome the resistance that's starting to take place state by state in our country? It seems that it's just becoming more and more difficult to teach our children without the pushback from politicians and...
I was on a podcast with Jenna today. We were talking about it. They were talking about how You know, back in the day, I was alive, you know, the Reagan administration, Bush administration, Clinton, you know, it was kind of ho-hum. You know, the government was working, Congress was passing laws, the legislators are reaching across the aisles to try to get things done. And I think we've just come into a tough time where everybody feels very strongly, you know, one way or the other. And the poor teachers in this environment, they have to stay factual. And I think a lot of them are afraid because, you know, they don't want parents calling them, whatever, which is when I say, so bring a lawyer or a judge into the courtroom to help you, to tell your students what is factual, what does the Constitution say. You know, it's tough for teachers. They're not taught the content of civics that much. So it's tough for them to do, but it's more important than ever. So I was telling the teachers today in these sessions, reach out to your bar association, reach out to your courthouse and say, we'd like a judge to come speak to our kids about Bill of Rights Day or Constitution Day. And they'll be able to do it in a factual way. And if the parents push back, the teacher can say, well, the judge said that, or the lawyer said that, I didn't say that. But I think it's challenging. It's also challenging because there's not a lot of time, as I was mentioning. There's so much teaching to the test. The social studies is getting pushed aside. So for the teachers to find the time to teach the content is difficult. That's why we're there. And these read-alouds have been very, very popular because we zoom in, or the firefighter comes in, it takes 45 minutes, the teacher can observe and the kids are active. I find that when someone comes in from the outside, with a judge or lawyer, firefighter, veteran, kids pay more attention. This person doesn't have to be here. They're here to help us, and you know, we want to learn from them. So I think there are ways we can do it, but I think it's very challenging in this day and age because we are so polarized. You know, and I don't think I'm saying anything anybody that doesn't know, and I'm not expressing a judicial opinion. We're polarized, so it is difficult, but it's more important than ever that they understand.
We're going to hear John, then we'll get.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. So, because this program is for kids of varying ages, and there's a big difference between second grade and fifth grade, I would love to hear, you know, what are some concepts that maybe just didn't quite land for kids that are just a little too young, or maybe you could just reach it at like fifth grade. I mean, things like irony, social responsibility that, you know, they don't necessarily come innately. So I'm curious where you've kind of found the line was where kids could just, or not quite, get some of these concepts.
There was a program in the Allentown School District several years ago. I forget what it was called.
School Violence Prevention Demonstration Program.
Thank you. And it was based on authority, respect,
Responsibility, privacy.
and kids K through 8, these principles, these qualities were embedded in the curriculum to the point that one youngster who disobeyed a rule and was sent to the principal's office basically said, I know I did that without authority, and I know you're going to do something. But these are basic principles, and it's amazing. 4th and 5th graders can conceptualize. My grandchild, when she was 4th and 5th grade, she was capable of a lot more than I ever would have thought. And young children are, and they're sponges. They pick up on things. But you start embedding basic civic values. You don't have to teach the Constitution, but privacy, respect, authority, who has authority, responsibility. Those are basic that I think parents do inculcate in their children, and they can be taught in the schools as well. But doing something like that, and it was our previous Secretary of Education, Dr. Zahorchek, who did that in Allentown, but it requires change for school to kind of switch gears and put in this curriculum, and that's very difficult in education. Change is, and in fact, one of the problems with the way the school system is today is superintendents and principals are reluctant to ask their teachers to change. The teachers are so challenged. We were at a school superintendent who I know, and he had gathered his curriculum people around, and we were talking, and they were saying, it's great, really great programs, really great programs, but there's no time. And they're not willing to change over time, because then that pushes, and the teachers are so burdened these days trying to teach to the test. It's just difficult. But I think it's really basic. You can basic values that we can teach to children when they're very young, and they get it. They really do get it.
I think, and you heard it on the video, I know, and you heard it on the video, nobody asks them, and they can handle some of these sharp, heavy concepts. First Amendment, when we first did our First Amendment question, they're like, you can't talk about the First Amendment with fifth graders and really have them understand it. We looked at some court cases one time, and they really can. We just don't think they can. And sometimes if you set a higher boundary, they'll rise to the occasion. And we've seen that time and time again with our mock trial, with our Citizenship challenge particularly. But they're at the age of the wrestling with it. As the judge said to the pre-service teachers today, they don't have that, oh, I can't answer because I don't want to be Joe Cool. They're not struggling with those social things. They're really eager to learn, and they're excited about it. And it becomes sort of an adventure, particularly when we do the mock trial program.
The difference between a fifth grade class, when you ask a question, and an eighth grade class is like night and day. The fifth grade, the eighth grade's like, why are you telling me this? Why are you asking me this? I got so much on my plate. I
really don't need this, you know. So we think we're targeting the right audience, and they'll remember it. I mean, my granddaughter remembers those 5 rights protected by the First Amendment. She can spout them off like that. Not many people can. She'll remember that.
We have a question in the back.
Yes, just follow up to that. On the same lines with Thomas thing, we found it in this 8, 10, 12 years, something like that. So a lot of you got a quote from the student who's now 9th grade and saying, wow, I learned a lot just 4 years ago. We had a group of students, small as it might be, but is that an opportunity to kind of break that barrier of, yeah, I'm too old for school, so I'm not going to answer you. But if you had kids who have done it, could they be the catalyst for doing it at the later grades?
Yeah.
8, 9, 10, for this years, they do it about
That may be our next attempt, our next program to try to do that.
Researchers in the audience, but I think there's a lot of programs in high school. You have mock trial, you have debate, Center for Civic Education is a We the People program. There's a lot of programs for high school kids out there, and you tend to get the top performers, the ones that are interested in it. We're looking at not every child, but we're looking at the average child. And what I found particularly inspiring is we go into not just suburban districts, we go into inner city Philadelphia. I was out in Kutztown this year, and the kids who aren't normally the active kids in the class, the kids that are quiet and aren't participating, they get involved in this because it seems very real. We're talking, if it's a literature, it's a history-based mock trial, if we just even look at a traditional courtroom situation, it comes to life for them, and they want to become involved, and they go back into the literature and they're looking what motivated the character to do what they did. So they become involved, and it's very inspiring to see, and the teachers come up and say, hey, I really didn't think my students, they weren't engaged, they're engaged in this activity. Or we have students that have learning difficulties. For some reason, because it's very verbal and it's very having outside people come in, and we continue to come back in. We did some programming in Chester, and Chester is one of the worst school districts in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And we had a lot of resistance for the kids when we went in, but we kept coming back. And that really meant a lot. And by the end, we could see the light bulbs go off in some of the kids, and they really respected what we were doing, and they started to listen. I first went into the classroom, no books in the classroom. The teacher gave up on books because the kids, by and large, we were in 7th and 8th grade, and by and large, they were reading at less than a 4th grade reading level. So we had to come up with different things. So we did a court case about a rapper by the end, they really were able to understand what we wanted, not just the court case, but they knew what a judge did. They knew what burden of proof was. They knew what the prosecutor did, what the defense attorney did. So they understood our court system, and then they had a better appreciation for the rule of law. So something about this activity really gets even the hardest students involved. I don't know, do we answer your question?
Great question.
Hi. You've created such a wonderful model. Wondering whether you've reached out or people from other states have reached out to you to replicate it. To how wonderful would it be if there were 10 or 20 states across the country doing this?
We are trying to do for the 250th. In fact,
The governor is pushing very hard to have our programs replicated in the states. But you know, each state, it's tough to crack the states. They have their own programs. They have their own things they're doing. And for them to leave those and pick up on something else, is difficult. But, we've seen that this really works. And we've seen that the themes are so good for the 250th. I mean, the Declaration of Independence and all the grievances, we can put King George on trial, for all the bad things he's been doing to the colonies. But it's tough. It's really tough to break that mold of what everybody's doing. If I had a wand and I could make sure that everybody does, because it's easy. We have the tools to do it. We have the subject. We have the trials are all scripted. If you Google Rendell Center, we have all these mock trials already scripted. We have citizenship challenge things. We have all kinds of things right there. If someone would just take the time and effort to do that. But
yeah, good question. I suspect most of us are from the center region or from the State College School District. Could you tell us a little bit about what, if anything, you're doing in the Center County, specifically the State College School District, and how we might be able to help in that regard? Be local.
We did start working with a school in Center County. It's hard. We have, as been indicated, very small staff, but we have partners. Yeah, we have our partners, and that I think is what is very profound about our program. We have partners with lawyers and judges. The Pennsylvania Bar Association has been a phenomenal partner. They allow us, and we did have some lawyers taking our program into a school up in State College, and then something happened. We didn't quite complete it. We love to do that. We love to have Citizenship Challenge. We had schools from Johnstown, from Pittsburgh. We love to see some schools from up here. On Read Aloud, we are covering across the Commonwealth because it's virtual. We can get the schools. I think it's a function of getting the word out and letting teachers see the benefits, letting teachers see it fits into what they're doing. It fits into their curriculum. We're not asking them to do, as the judge mentioned, another add-on. So if you have schools and you have teachers, we'd love to talk with them and have a conversation. How's that for an answer? I'll throw it back to you. Let us know how we can work with them. I have had some teachers from this area come and attend our summer teacher institutes, which has been wonderful.
And our funding model is very modest. Annenberg Public Policy Center helps us. Ed Rendell does a lot of personal fundraising. I, as a federal judge, cannot raise any money, but I depend on generous people like Larry and Lynn and other people. We have an annual fundraiser every year. But even doing all that, it's tough with one person.
Building capacity is something that we've struggled with.
I think we have time for one more question. If anybody has.
All right.
Well, if not, I think another round of applause. The wonderful work that they're doing, and for Ted and Tracy McCourtney and Larry and Lynn Brown and everyone who helps to make the McCourtney Institute for Democracy what it is. Thank you. So, thank you for being here. If you're joining us for dinner, transportation is waiting to take you to my home. You'll be traveling on the Penn State trolley today. So as you go through College Heights, a good "we are," I think, is probably called for. All right? We'll see you all soon. Thank you for coming. Have a good evening, everybody.